Hello, and thank you for watching this video about behavior, focusing on the different types of behavior such as instinct and different types of learning. You have probably heard the word behavior before. Maybe you've done something you aren't supposed to do, and your parent says to you, "Your behavior is unacceptable. Please stop acting that way." Or maybe your behavior is great, and you're doing all the right things and being good. So your parent says, "Thank you for behaving so nicely." For humans, behavior would be defined as the way that someone acts, especially toward others. But we're talking about plants and animals, so why are we talking about behavior? Well, animals behave in certain ways too. When we're talking about animals, behavior is an action performed by an animal in response to a stimulus. But what is a stimulus? A stimulus is just a fancy word for a thing or event that causes a reaction. So animal behaviors are actions performed by animals when something is happening around them that causes them to react. One type of behavior is instinct, a response to a stimulus that is inborn and that an animal performs correctly the first time. An instinct is something that an organism does when they're born and no one has to teach them how to do it. For example, babies cry to let their parents know when something is wrong. No one has to teach a baby how to cry, so this is an instinct. Animals also do this too. Many animals have warning cries that alert others in their group of danger. These warning cries are instincts that their parents do not have to teach them how to do. Another example is building a nest. Birds are not taught how to build a nest. They just know, and so they do it. Spiders also have the instinct to build webs. No other spiders have to teach them how to build a web. They are just born with the knowledge of how to do it and do it naturally. Most behaviors are not instincts that animals are born with. For example, no one is able to sit down at a piano bench for the first time and play a difficult piano piece. No one is born with the instinct for playing piano well. Playing any instrument has to be learned. Organisms have learned behaviors too that must be taught to them. Learning is the process that leads to changes in behavior based on practice or experience. As organisms get older, they learn how to do new things and get better at them through practice and experience, just like how you might learn how to get better at playing a musical instrument or playing a sport or multiplying fractions. There are a few examples of learned behaviors that your lessons go through, including imprinting, conditioning, trial and error learning, and insight learning. You will not be tested on these different types of learning. Imprinting is when a newly hatched bird or newborn mammal recognizes and follows the first moving object they see. Most of the time, this is a parent because their parent is probably nearby when their babies are hatching or being born. Imprinting keeps animals safe by keeping them close to their parents, and it also allows young animals to learn what kinds of animals what their species looks like. Another learned behavior is conditioning. Conditioning is learning that a certain stimulus or response leads to a good or bad outcome. Conditioning helps animals learn behaviors that give them rewards or help them stay away from things that can hurt them. For example, my mother is scared to death of mice and other small rodents like them. This is because when she was younger, a mouse crawled up her pant leg and her brother whacked her leg with a wooden plank, which killed it inside her pant leg. Ugh. After that experience, she has been conditioned to be afraid of mice and other small rodents. Maybe you are afraid of certain animals or certain situations because of a bad experience that you had. This means that you are conditioned to be afraid of it. For an animal example, if you give your dog a treat every time he sits when you tell him to, he will learn that if he sits when told, he will get a treat. Eventually, he will sit even if you don't give him a treat because he has been conditioned to do so. Another learned behavior is trial and error learning. This is when an animal learns to do a behavior through repeated practice. With trial and error learning, there is some sort of desired outcome. So an organism keeps trying and trying different ways to get that outcome until it works. For example, maybe Jimmy is a toddler who's at the grocery store with his mom, and he sees a candy bar that he wants. First, he asks politely for the candy bar, and Mom says no. That didn't work, so he tries grabbing the candy bar and putting it in the cart. Mom scolds him and puts the candy bar back. Then Jimmy lays down on the ground of the grocery store and starts to scream and cry. Mom is embarrassed and tells him that he can have the candy bar if he gets off the ground and stops crying right that second. He does, so he gets the candy bar. If Jimmy wants something in the future, he will be more likely to throw a temper tantrum because it has worked before. He has gone through trial and error learning. An example of an animal going through trial and error learning would be a red fox cub learning to hunt. He has to use various skills he has learned and try again and again using different methods to be able to hunt successfully and find a way that works. Lastly, we have insight learning. It is described as being able to solve a problem or learn how to do something new by applying what you already know without a period of trial and error. This type of learning most often happens in humans because we have the ability to think critically and solve complex problems. This rarely happens in animals, but might happen in primates like chimpanzees and gorillas. They are very intelligent and are similar to humans in some ways. They can sometimes figure out complex problems too.